makes a lot of sense. Because I mean, if you ever listen, and I listen to quite a bit of Canadian radio on here, and they'll tell you that they're overnight, they're live around the clock. Mics are going hot.
Good morning, folks. It's Thursday, 10:30. This is Jim Quigley with Recovery Talk. Hope and help for the hurting. Been doing this show. This is show 58. 58 weeks been doing this show. Can you believe it?
It was longer, Jimmy.
No, it's 58
Only 58?
Yeah.
I thought you guys were pushing about 80 shows.
80 shows. Not yet, but, not too far away from 80, though.
Holy cow.
But this show has been brought to you this whole time by Freedom Auto Tech. Freedom Auto Tech is a local mechanic shop ready to give you top-notch service. You know what? Don't take my word for it. Go to Facebook, look up Freedom Auto Tech, Boone, North Carolina, and read some reviews. We've been having some lovely people leave lovely reviews, but they're ready to service all your mechanical needs. Give them a call, 828-355-4434. That's 828-355-4434. They're open Monday through Saturday, folks, 8 to 5, and they're ready to give you 2-year, 24,000-mile warranty on all the parts and labor for your vehicle. So give them a call. They'll fix you right up if you have any auto needs. So this morning, I'm blessed to have in studio with me my friend Ryan Carver, all the way from Tampa, Florida. So say good morning to everybody, Ryan, on Facebook over there and on the radio.
Good morning. Good morning.
Ryan was a little bit reluctant to come, but everybody is when I first asked him to come. But I share a little bit. Ryan and I are almost down the same distance down in Florida. He's on the other side of the coast. I'm from the east. He's from the west coast. We have rival gangs.
No,
we don't. Anyway, Ryan, how long you been up in the high country now?
Let's see, about 4.5 months.
About 4.5 months. And we also share a little history. He obviously has come up here because he was addressing a substance abuse issue, and down in Florida we knew some of the same. You went to a place that would not accept me at the time for a certain reason we won't get into on the air, but you went there, Dunklin Ministries down there, and you had a really good experience. And so anyway, it's always nice when you get someone from your neck of the woods and you share a little bit of history, even though we have never met until now. Interesting, right outside, the news station manager here at WATA or High Country Radio knows, or you're from the same area. I just heard you say.
Yeah, he's from Bluefield, West Virginia. My granddad's from Tazewell, Virginia, which is not very far.
Okay.
Maybe like a 20-minute ride.
So, Ryan, we didn't really get to talk too much, but what this show is all about is I get guests on here and we talk about the recovery process. We talk about things that happen on a personal level. You share your story. So we've asked you to come in here, and we're hoping that there's someone out there watching or listening. And there's a lot of you and I both know there's a lot of people affected by substance abuse. And when I say substance abuse, I mean not just the drug epidemic that's going on right now. It's the opioid epidemic. But as soon as they're cracking down on the prescription pain medication. Now it's going to be heroin. And then I just came from Kentucky, and they said over there meth is now the thing. So it doesn't matter what it is. It's the demand that's the problem. And why is there a demand? And you know what? People need hope, because this is such a crazy thing. It's such an irrational thing. When people look at people struggling with substance abuse, it doesn't make any sense. And you know what? When you want to factor in the problems with alcohol too, I mean, basically all the numbers you hear about addiction when it comes to drugs, double it, or maybe even a little bit more, because alcohol actually kills more people, alcohol related, every year than illicit drugs. So anyway, so that's what you're doing here, my friend. I don't know if you've ever seen a show before, but we want to know about Ryan. We want to know about where you started, where you grew up, how you got into this thing, some of your experience with trying to get help before, because I know we already just mentioned you already have, and we want to know what kind of happened to bring you here. So my brother, take it away, and I'm always looking for the one day where someone's going to start off. You ever seen the movie The Jerk? No, I think Mike Kelly's the only one in here. I grew up a poor black child. You know, I'm always waiting for someone to start off their story like that. But
Well,
anyway,
I could start it out that way, but it wouldn't be the truth.
so where did you start up? Where did you grow up? What was family life? You know, tell us, my friend.
Well, I'm from a little town called Lutz, Florida. It's just north of Tampa. You know, I say I grew up in a good family, and I did. My granddad was a hard worker, taught me a lot of work ethic. They were always around. I grew up on 20 acres that he owned. So I pretty much just ran free when we were home, and during the summers, my grandmother was always home, you know, baked cookies and the whole 9 yards. But, you know, and if I get a little emotional, you'll have to forgive me. It was rough. It was rough as a kid. I'm the oldest of three, and my dad was pretty abusive, verbally abusive, and physically, you know, to me and my brother. Never did beat on my mom or my sister, but pretty rough on us boys. And you know, being the oldest, I always felt like I needed to protect. You know, and you know, looking back, I feel like I learned manipulation at a real young age, you know, just trying to manipulate the household and keep peace, you know, as a child. You know, I'd come home and think to myself, you know, what's his mood going to be like? And I would bend my mood or how I felt to try to keep him calm.
Absolutely, yeah.
You know?
It's interesting to make that connection because I think that's totally, you know, legitimate. Yeah. I mean, most people, if not all, that I've dealt with when it comes to treatment and substance abuse, you know, we are masters at trying to think that we can control our environment. We control other people's reactions, right?
Right.
Because you know, eventually it becomes of trying to manipulate people in order to get what you want, which is the same thing, but we wanted drugs or money or resources, you know.
And I didn't connect the two at a young age, but what I wanted was peace, you know. So let's see. My dad was on a lot of drugs. You know, he was using coke and drinking whiskey, and I didn't know it at the time, but he was just, you know, he was a pistol, man. He loved us, but he was just, when he got mean, he got mean. And I always had my grandparents to run to, you know, right down the street, 2 houses down. We grew up on a dirt road. And as I got older, I guess I was probably 13 when, you know, my dad came and got me. I was mowing the yard and, you know, told me not to weed eat around this pile of bushes. Well, there was a weed plant in there. You know, he showed me, and, you know, not to tell my mom and this and that. And, you know, as I got into my teens and you know, the hurt that had been planted in me as a child, you know, I made up my mind that, you know, no other man was going to disrespect me or talk to me the way he did. And I started to look up to my dad in a negative light, you know, in the all the stuff that killed me as a child, that hurt me as a child, I wanted to be, you know, I wanted to be the nasty guy that nobody confronted. I wanted to be, you know, I started smoking pot, you know, I guess I was 16 when I started smoking weed, taking weed to school, you know, selling it and this and that. And when all that started, I moved out at 17, and when all that first started, you know, I'd be lying to you if I said it wasn't fun. You know, I had a lot of good times in the beginning.
Did you, how far did you go in high school? Did you finish?
I didn't. I dropped out of high school in 10th grade. I got my GED.
You and I both, did we talk about this before?
No.
I dropped out in 10th grade. I got my GED. I moved out when I was 17.
Yeah. Moved in with a girlfriend and her mom and her sister, and then not too long after that, got our own place. And I always worked for the family business, my granddad's business. Well, at an early age, you know, during the summers, I'd work for them till, you know, we went back to school, and then I worked for them until I was 19.
Which was, the family business was?
Concrete foundation work and block work.
Tough work.
Very tough, especially for working with some hillbilly that's, you know, got a work ethic a mile long. Being my grandfather, I say that in a loving way. I look up to him so much. But I left home at 19 and went to Houston and started working out there, doing electrical work, and loved it and started traveling, working.
A lot different a pace doing electrical work than concrete work, huh?
Oh yeah. But it was freeing to be out and running on my own, and I was with my best friend. We went to California, went up to Nebraska, all up and down the coast of California, Houston. I went up to South Dakota working on wind turbines. Did a lot of different things for about 2 years, and it was exciting.
What were those ages?
Probably like 19 to 21, 22, somewhere in there.
Okay.
Yep. And then I finally made my way back home, and I worked for my grandfather for a couple of years, and then started a tile business with my little brother. I was probably 23 or 24, and we started laying tile and natural stone for the same builder that my granddad does the concrete work for.
Okay.
So we started doing that, and things were going good except for the drugs. I mean, I've always worked, always had a good work ethic, always been able to make money, always been able to speak to people and conduct myself in a manner to get what I needed out of life, but the drugs were slowly becoming a problem, and I didn't realize it. I got into pain pills around that time, and
when you're that young, you almost make it. You probably share this, but I always thought it made me a better worker, right? It's like, I could take these pills and I could work even harder and better, and it's a delusion, really. But
right.
But when you're young, you bounce back from overuse real quick. You're able to sleep it off. You're able to get up and get going. So. Just when you get older, it just doesn't work that way anymore.
Those days have come and gone.
Yeah, I have to warn those guys that are coming here a little bit older age. Like, look, man, you're not that young anymore. But that delusion lasts so long in our. We're like, I stopped using it, man. It's been a month, and I still feel like I'm broken. It's like, buddy, you're 40 years old, or you're 35 years old. You're not 20 anymore. So. All right, man. So we're getting close to a break here, but so let's say your story, you're about 22, traveling quite a bit, kind of a little bit adventurous, I would say, back home, starting to do some work on your own. So look, folks, stay with us, and when we come back, we will pick Ryan's story back up. So what's up, Glenn and Margaret and Pastor Dixon? Got them watching. Says Pastor
How's your
Dixon.
family doing, Jimmy?
Good, man. Real good.
Did you guys get away for the summer at all, or are you still taking a vacation coming up? Or
We haven't, but this might sound crazy, but we're planning a trip in January.
Where are you going?
Memphis, to see one of my best friends. I'm going to go hunting with him, do some duck hunting on the Mississippi.
Oh, wow.
And my wife will hang out with his wife.
You familiar with Jerry Clower?
Hmm.
He was a Southern comedian.
Mm-hmm.
He was big in this area for a number of years. And he was an Alabama boy, but he was a funny guy. He was a clean comedian, but he was a funny guy. And he said, my comedy's taken me a long way. And he said, I wound up getting some work in Hollywood. And he goes, I got to meet one of the producers. We got to be friends. And he always had a fetish to go quail hunting. So he said, I took him with me to Mississippi, where you got a lot of good quail hunting. And I knew some people he'd grown up with. They'd let him hunt on the land. Well, he got together with the guy that was all dressed up in his stuff to go hunting, and Jerry drives him over to this guy's house, and he goes, you wait here, I'm going to let them know that we're here so they don't think there's somebody trespassing. When he went in there, met the old man. Old man looked at Jerry, he said, I need you to do me a favor. He goes, what's that? He said, that old mule I've had since you were a little boy? He said, he's gone blind and he's about on his last leg. He said, I ain't got the heart to do it. Can you take him out for me? Yeah, I'll do that. No problem. Clower's walking out the door. He gets a wild-ass idea that he's going to fool this Yankee. So he referred to him. When he comes out, closes the door, picks up his pace, comes in the car, opens the door, gets in, slams it. He goes, how do you like that? All them years being friends. Ask him if we can hunt on his land, and he tells me no. And he's all upset and all that stuff. And he's playing this up because he's going to fake that this guy's going to kill this mule out of being pissed. Backs out, hits the road, gravel flying all over, flies down the road, comes up to where it tees and where the mule is, makes a sharp left, and he stops. And he goes, I'll show that old man. He said, I'm going to kill that mule. Gets out of the car, grabs his gun, went right up to him. He said, shot him dead right in the head. He said, next thing you know, I hear boom, boom. Turns around, he goes, what are you doing, Yankee? He goes, well, the guy pissed you off that bad. You killed this mule. I thought I'd help you out. I just shot 2 of his cows. Oh, my God. Oh, my God.
Howard Jerry Clower.
Funny guy. I think he's passed on.
Pastor Dixon, who was in here one time, he was just saying, he's commenting, he's like, Howard Jerry Clower.
Clower's fun. He was funny guy.
Glenn Taylor, you met him. My buddy, the bald guy.
Oh, yeah,
He's watching. He says, tell Ryan I said hi.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Tell him
so
I
they
said
can
hello.
hear you. They can hear you right
It's
now.
funny
Hey, Glenn, how you
stuff,
doing?
man. That's funny stuff.
They hear you from the phone, not
Oh,
there,
okay.
not here.
Okay.
That was funny stuff.
That is funny.
But,
I took 2 of his cows out for you.
All right.
oh, man.
Yeah, when I go to Memphis, my buddies live there. He's 45, I think. Never been to Graceland. And I'm like, we're going to go to Graceland. He's
Serious.
never been. And I was like, we're going to go. Let's just
Steve
go.
Bear went. It cost him $50.
But,
And he said it was gorgeous, but he said it's so large. It's like the World War II Museum in Washington, D.C. There's so much to see. 10 seconds, guys. That you can't get through it in one day.
Right.
Okay,
Wow.
Jimmy, mics are hot. Here we go.
Welcome back to Recovery Talk. Jim Quigley here, Thursday. Hope and help for the hurting. That's what we're trying to accomplish here on this show. We have Ryan Carver in here sharing his story, his hope with us today. But before we get back into it, don't forget about Freedom Autotech. Freedom Autotech sponsors this show, makes it happen every week, and they're ready to give you good service on your vehicle. Give them a call, 828-355-4434. It's 828-355-4434. Check them out on Facebook, Freedom Autotech, and read some reviews. Don't just listen to my recommendation. There's a lot of people out there who have been graciously leaving great reviews, quick service, good service, nice customer service. I don't think you could go wrong if you got a car need. And you can know they're open Monday through Saturday, 8 to 5, and you can get 2-year, 24,000-mile warranty on all parts, which is nationwide parts and labor. You get your car fixed up here in Boone, travel to California. If the part is under warranty, they will fix it. If it breaks, in California, and the labor is covered also. Okay, Ryan, so you're about, 22, 23?
Yeah.
You're in Tampa. You're working for a contractor that you knew from your grandfather's company.
Yep.
And are you running your own little company at this point?
Yep. It was an LLC.
Okay.
RK Flooring, which was Ryan and Kyle. I did that for probably about 4 years, I'd say.
Okay.
Before me and my brother had a falling out. Around when we first started the company is probably around the first time I did coke. I tried cocaine.
Mm-hmm.
And, didn't use it every day, but it got progressively worse.
And you were aware of it. You knew what it was. Did you? Because you said your dad did it. Did you know your dad did it, or
not at
until-
that point?
Okay.
Not
Okay.
at that point, I didn't. It probably wasn't until I was like 30 or something before my mom started talking to me about some of that stuff when she realized what was going on with me. But so around that same age, it wasn't too long after I tried coke, is my cousin had brought some pain pills to work. And at the time, I didn't even know what they were. They were just called pain pills. I had no idea about the opiates or anything that we know about now.
Right.
I just knew they made my body stop hurting and made me feel good. And like you said, I felt like I could work better on them, you know. It wasn't too long after that I smoked crack a few times. And I guess it was towards the tail end of arcade flooring, probably around like 26. I shot up pills for the first time intravenously. And it's crazy because the first time it knocked me out and I woke up puking. I mean, it was like the most miserable experience, but something in my addictive behavior wanted to do it again. And once I did, it was, that's when the nightmare started.
Yeah. You know, I tell people, you know them because, well, everybody knows it, that we're involved in pain medication and injecting pain medication. The first time I ever did, I had done pain pills before, but the first time I did a Roxy, which was basically what you probably, that was like your deal, right? Everybody was doing Roxy. So the first time I ever did one, I did half of one at a friend's house, and they crushed it up for me, and I snorted it, right? Like you said, 30 minutes later, I was throwing up. I mean, it was that powerful.
Right.
But you know what? These drug companies, this stuff is so addictive, and you can build a tolerance up so fast.
Oh, yeah.
Within 6 months, okay? Whereas a half of one of those things would make me sicker than a dog. I had gotten up to the point where I could do 20 of those things in a day.
Oh, yeah.
And it did not make me sick anymore.
Oh, yeah.
It made me sick if I didn't have them.
Yep. I had a friend that went to the doctor, and at the time, you know, people were what they call doctor shopping,
right,
where
sure.
they would go to several doctors a day, you know, 7 days a week or 6 days a week or whatever they could, and we're getting thousands and thousands of these pills, and you know, I'm not proud of it by any means at all, but you know, like you said, my tolerance had gotten so bad that I would literally have two spoons to put pills in, you know, 10 in one and 10 in the other, and I was intravenously doing 20 freaking pills at one time.
Yep.
Yeah, I could be dead.
Yep, absolutely.
But
you're not.
I'm not.
And you're here today sharing some hope.
Absolutely.
Because you survived, and look at you now.
It is crazy. God's work and what He does is amazing. He ended up. I went through a lot of years of doing just that, of just, you know, slowly killing myself with drugs, and I was 32 when it finally got to the point where I had lost my business. I didn't want to work, and I mean, I was working here and there, but it was just to get enough money to get high.
Right, sure.
You know, and it got to a point where my mother, you know, she was always an enabler, but believe it or not, me and my brother had taken her to CR, and when we did, it hit her like a ton of bricks that she was an enabler, and she never knew it.
For those of you guys that are listening or watching, CR is Celebrate Recovery, which is a program that started by Rick Warren, or somebody that worked for, I think it's Saddleback Church that he, so Rick Warren, and it's basically a Christian version of the 12-step recovery.
Right.
So,
right.
But it's that their thing is that anybody with a hurt, habit, or hang-up can go to a CR meeting. So you don't have to be an alcoholic or a drug addict. You can be a codependent person,
or a sex addict,
or you
anything.
can, so it's just all encompassing hurt, habit, or hang up, whatever falls under those things. So you made the mistake of bringing your mom there.
Yeah. Yes,
and then she got some education, huh?
Yep, she got wise, and you know, I was about 31 when she finally said, you know, she literally told me, "You're not coming to my house to shower. You're not coming here to eat. You're not coming here to sleep. Do not come here until you're ready for help." And that's what did it, man. I was living in a bad part of town and doing a lot of crazy things, man. Things I'm not proud of with women and drugs and myself, and life was dark. And
let me tell you, we've had this topic many, many times, and I just want to just pause and point out another, because there are still one of the biggest problems when it comes to addressing people that have substance abuse issues is enablement. They have family members that are scared to death to not let them come and take a shower, to not let them come in and eat food, to not let them do these things, right? And it's a difficult thing to tell somebody, look, the most loving thing you can do is let your loved one experience the consequences that come with their behavior, because it may just be the thing that they're like, I can't live like this anymore. Something's got to change. If you're enabling their life to continue by providing help, right? Paying cell phone bills, paying rent, paying car payments. I mean, you know how bad it can be with parents. My mom had to do the same thing. And let me tell you something. I love her to death to this day. The moment that she did it, I hated her. I couldn't stand her. Right. She had done the same thing. Someone told her to go to an Al-Anon meeting, and she had been told some stuff about enabling. And, but you know what? Parents ask me all the time that they say, if I don't help them, they're going to die, right? And you know what? I'm not going to argue with that. That's the thing about substance abuse. People do die, and I understand that's a very scary thing. But what is better? That you enable them to the point to where you find them dead in your house, right? Or that and then you have to think, like, maybe 20 years ago, if I had put my foot down and stopped enabling them, they would have maybe gotten help.
Right.
I mean, it's a double-sided coin. It's either they can die during your enabling, or they could die if you stop enabling. Okay, that doesn't change.
Right.
But I'm going to tell you, two guys sitting right here, that when their parents you never question their love. I never questioned their love for me. They just stopped enabling me, and it was hurtful, but it got me help.
Right, I agree.
So 32, mom's put her foot down. That's what we'll pick up your story when we come back from this commercial break. So stick with us, folks. We'll be back in a minute. You're doing great.
Thank you.
We're halfway done.
All right.
So.
You guys are going in the commercial. You guys are going into the news.
Very soon.
That was Dave Ramsey.
Yeah. It's getting ready for the news. And God, they've been sending us over-modulated stuff. Oh my gosh. There's a spot they've done for diabetes. This is coming from Raleigh. And we're thinking, wait a minute. The hell are you guys doing? Were you stoned when you did this or what? Golly. Because Bill heard it. He come in here and he's like, what the hell was that? I said, that's the spot they sent us.
How's Danny? You told me whoever came in here was going to have a hard time.
He's doing what any good manager will do. He's probing. And I think, and you need to do that. It's almost like a coach. You come in, you look at your team, what you've got, what they can offer, what are your strengths, weaknesses of each individual you have, and you try to piece it all together without just coming in blindly and just cut, and then all of a sudden, oh shit, I'm in trouble. I mean, that's what happened with John Hoffman when he got here years ago. He decides, I'm going to get rid of all the part-timers. And 2 months after, he come up to Andy Glass, that was here at the time. We don't have any help to do this. And Andy looked at him and said, John, I told you 2 months ago, you need to evaluate what you wanted to keep out of those part-timers. You wiped out the hours. You're SOL.
Yeah, that's one thing I learned at an early age with working with my family and being asked to manage older family and people who are older than me, is learn people's strengths.
Yeah.
And how to talk to them individually.
And I think this man is going to do that. What I like about this guy,
Hi, I'm Brett Michaels.
He does it. See, here it is. Here's a spot.
Brett Michaels.
Diabetes is a constant battle. Testing.
Listen to that. That's overmodulated.
Yeah.
It's like he's right on top of the mic like this.
Diabetes
What are you
since
doing?
6 years old.
What are you,
You know
Helen
who
Keller?
that is, right?
Huh?
You know who Brett Michaels is, right?
I know the name. I'm familiar with him.
He's an 80s, 90s hair band guy, lead singer. What was it? Poison?
Was it Poison? I'm not sure.
I think it's Poison.
To stop
Every rose has its thorn, right? That's Poison.
Dangerous story.
Yeah.
Get involved in local events.
Yeah, like I said, guys,
Step out.
you guys, I don't know how you guys, God bless you that you guys lived through it. Because I'm telling you what, it's like, well, you know, like you were talking about your dad with taking the coke and the alcohol. I remember after Richard Pryor passed away, they did a piece on him on HBO, and they brought many of his former wives in during the documentary, and one of them said, if I would have known how violent he could get, I'd have never even gotten involved with him. And she described a time when he was starting to fly off the handle at every turn, and he'd be sitting at poolside, and he'd be sitting there freebasing his coke and drinking either vodka, gin, straight, or other hard liquor. And he looked at her and he said, there's nothing wrong with me. And I'd appreciate it if you got the F out of my face. I mean, and it was serious stuff. I mean, Pryor, it's kind of like Steve Harvey said one time. He said, you can sit there and laugh at his comedy, and you laugh at his vulgarity, but the reality is, all that is true stuff. He's reiterating his life story to
making
you.
A joke out
This
of pain.
really happened.
Yeah, oh yeah.
You know, because his dad was a pimp. His mother was a mistress.
Right.
And he grew up around that type of... He grew up around that type of environment. It wasn't uncommon to see his mother running around the house half naked and entertaining men. You know, he's like a little kid, and you're taking all this in, and you're thinking, what the? But it happens, and it happens rather frequently. And there are so many kids today that you look at their lives and you wonder why they hate their parents, and why many of them, even with the hatred of their parents,
End up just like them.
they wind up just like them.
Yep.
Because you drown in your own juice just like they do, because you can't express who you are without this. All of a sudden that becomes your crutch, and you're afraid to face public. I mean, it's amazing to me how some people can function like that. I mean, you're telling me, how many a day?
Right, 20 easy. I could do 20. I could do more than that.
How the hell are you still standing?
I'm telling you.
I mean,
I shouldn't be. Yeah.
Well, and if you look at Pryor near the end of his life, he was in a wheelchair. He was 65 years old. He looked like a man who was in his mid to late 80s.
Yeah.
His body got that beat up. I remember meeting a lady in Florida, and she was a great gal, and she recovered. She looked like she was like in her early 60s. She was my age at the time, in her early 30s. And I asked the buddy, I'm like, what? And he goes, she was a big speed addict. She did speed all the time.
Yeah.
And it aged her. Here we go. Mics are hot, Jimmy.
All right, folks, welcome back to Recovery Talk. I'm Jim Quigley here with my friend and guest, Ryan Carver. We're going to get back into Ryan's story here in just a second, but first, before we do, don't forget about our show sponsor, Freedom Auto Tech. Freedom Auto Tech is a local mechanic shop here in town, ready to service all your vehicle needs, and you can know as a customer that the profits and proceeds from Freedom Auto Tech are going to support men in long-term Christian recovery through Freedom Farm Ministries. So go and get your car fixed, get good service, get a warranty, 2-year, 24,000-mile warranty on the parts. They're open Monday through Saturday, and know you're helping support a good cause at the same time. Give them a call, 828-355-4434. That's 828-355-4434. All right, my friend. So take us away. Pick it right back up where you are. Mom has put her foot down. What happens?
Yep. probably 6 months went by after that, and I made up my mind. We had found the place, Dunklin, you were talking about earlier, Dunklin Memorial Camp. I made up my mind to go there. I had no arrest, no anything taking me there, but I was just tired of of being sick and tired.
Dunklin's in Martin County, Florida, I believe.
I don't know the county, but it is in Okeechobee.
Okay, so down there, and it's a long-term, Christ-based recovery program. I've known many people that went there. They wouldn't let me in, I'll tell you, because they wouldn't let me because I was on a medication. They wouldn't. They weren't allowed medication.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it was a 10-month program, and I'll never forget the night before I went. My mom had asked me to, come stay at the house so that she'd have me there the next morning, afraid that I was going to check out and not go.
Mm-hmm.
And that night, I asked God, I said, man, I've been telling people I believe in you all these years, but, never went to church really as a kid, but just, hearing the elders in my family say they believe in God, I believe in God.
Right.
But that night I asked him, I said, man, if you're real, you're going to have to show me, because I don't know that I believe. And he did at Dunklin. He showed up, and I there he showed me beyond a shadow of a doubt that he's real. The best way I know to explain it is one night I was praying, just asking him to show me something, show me show me himself, and I was sitting there praying and meditating, and it felt like something passed through me. And I felt like the Lord was standing behind me. It just this eerie feeling of God standing behind me. And I'll never forget it, man. And Dunklin was a 10-month program. I got into inner healing, which is like 6 months in, and which is like the meat of the program, where you get rid of all the things that you believe, the lies you believe about yourself that have kept you in addiction. And I made it about halfway through inner healing and decided I knew what I needed to know to go and live my life, and that was a lie. I left Dunklin.
After how long had you been there?
Almost 8 months.
Okay.
I was there almost 8 months, and I left there, and I went to a halfway house that was being run by a man who had graduated from Dunklin. And it just so happened to be in Tampa, and he was doing lawn maintenance to fund the place, and there was a little church that was helping. And I stayed there, and I did that, and actually that place, that halfway house, ended up going under, and they couldn't fund it anymore. So the owner of the house ended up coming to me, because I was the last guy there,
right,
and asked me if I wanted to rent the place. And
okay.
At this point, I had already started working for my granddad again and doing my thing. So I ended up taking over the halfway house as a renter, just me living there.
Right.
Got all the furniture that was there. Pretty much God blessed me with everything that I had sold off in my addiction. TV, couches, everything I needed to live a comfortable life, even a vehicle. So I started working and doing my thing, and I stayed clean for about 2.5 years before I slipped up, and I don't know why to this day, but I tried meth on the job with a friend of mine who was already in his addiction. I don't know how I steered clear from doing it for as long as I did, but I smoked meth, and it didn't really do a whole lot to me at first. Just made me feel more awake and gave me some energy. And like the pills, I worked better on it.
Yeah, sure.
And I don't know why I thought that, but I did. And started smoking it more regularly after some couple months went on. And got even more weak and started getting back on the needle with the heroin and the pills, and started running with the women again, and slowly over like a year's time started getting right back into where I was before.
So I want to back up real quick, because you went to this program 2.5 years basically. You stayed sober. Do you ever think about leaving early and regretting that you did?
Not anymore.
Okay.
Not now that I'm here.
Well, I understand that.
At the time?
Yeah. So this is my point. It's like a lot of addiction is rooted in habits. Okay. I mean, I know that people say, like, the first time I tried cocaine, I was addicted at that point. And yeah, I understand that. First time I shot up, but you know, it takes a lot of habitual behavior to get to that point. Like nobody like lives like a clean and sober, responsible life and just wakes up one day and says, you know what, I'm gonna smoke crack. You know, so there's a lot of things that and so like people ask me all the time. They're like, a year? I mean, you're asking me to stay here a year, right? And I'm like, yeah, and it's not because I believe there's anything magic about 12 months, right? I believe that that the more time you can give living in a good environment, man, that's the more the better that's going to be for you. And there's nothing magic about the 10 months,
Right.
but there is something to say about the habit or the behavior of saying, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to finish what I said I was going to finish.
Right.
So, and that goes across the board for just people, right? I mean, you get people that don't necessarily have substance abuse issues, and you can, but that have like poor work ethic, or you know that are floundering in life. They just have terrible habitual behavior. You know, they don't finish. They don't do what they say they're going to do. They don't follow through because it's just not important, right? So, I mean, it's just important for anybody listening out there. I see it all the time, and it's depressing, okay, because people just don't finish their commitments, right? And they come up with some kind of reason that they are special and don't need to, you know?
Right.
So that I just felt like, and here it was, you did 2.5 years, and then, you know, you're living, and you're like, you know what? I can compromise, and you know, it's compromise. You're always compromising things, and you finally compromise, and
to go back to, I wanted to add with Dunklin and leaving early. You know, the one thing I started to miss was the friends that I had made, the brothers. That's priceless, man.
Absolutely.
And without that, after 2.5 years, left to my own devices, you know, pocket full of money and everything I needed, I went right back to the old life I knew. Another
thing that's not anything magic to understand, but people need community.
Absolutely.
You know, you need community, and people that struggle with substance abuse, they're what is the one thing they always say? They isolate all the time. You know, and you know, and Christianity specific, we're called to be in community. It's like your responsibility to be in community. So anyway, but yeah, I'm not going to get on start preaching a sermon. So
yeah, so I went back into my addiction, and there for a few years I was able to function and actually made more money than I've ever made there towards the end of it. But slowly but surely the meth, you know, after smoking it every day for 1.5 or 2 years, it started to play tricks on my mind. I got to where I couldn't sleep. And I was just up for days and days on end and going crazy.
We got to take a quick break, getting into your story, but when we come back, we'll finish it out. So, folks, stay with us, and we'll wind up his story when we come back.
When you come back, you guys will have 13 minutes, 12 minutes to the bottom of the hour.
You're doing great. This is a great show. So.
Man, dude, wow.
Yeah, and it's, you know, I was telling some of the guys, I didn't want to touch on a lot of the negative, but it's been
well, you're right. It's a dark life because you're just getting deeper into the addiction. You're getting deeper into an unfriendly lifestyle that eventually could lead to real ugly situations. I mean, like, the late singer Billie Holiday, she was such a heroin addict, and it happened right in front of her. A guy that she befriended, they hung out together and all that, and yeah, I'll fix you up, I'll get you some stuff, and we can party. And so the guy gets some heroin, and they go to her place, and they're just friends. Nothing happened intimate. It was just people hanging out, getting stoned. And about 2 hours later, there's a knock on the door. It was 3 big goons with this guy that he had gotten the stuff from. He goes, "Where's my money? You're supposed to meet me such and such ago." He had no answer. All the 3 goons made it an answer. They about killed him right in front of her. And she had no money to give him.
Yeah, I've
I
been
mean, you
there.
never you don't, man, you have no idea what those people are like.
Oh man, it's
You have no idea until you get in trouble with them. Jimmy, we got 68 seconds left. You never know. I mean, you never know. I'm sure, Jimmy, you've met your share of dark people, and they do exist.
Yep.
they do.
Hey, Carol. Wilson's mom saying hi.
Hello.
Oh, man. Guys, where the heck is summer going?
Yeah. How much longer we got?
I don't know up here. I know it lasts
Well,
forever down there.
I've seen a couple of woolly worms down in my neck because I live down by Elkin, and they've been a light brown.
Yeah.
I think it might be a mild winter down there, but up here this is just like Chicago.
Do you know the woolly worm
The
thing?
fuzzy one, the fuzzy one.
Brown, if they got a lot of black on him.
Yeah, that means it's gonna snow a lot.
Ah,
Here we go. Mics are hot. 10 seconds. Here we go.
Hey folks, Recovery Talk here, Jim Quigley. Welcome back. We're here to finish out my friend Ryan's story. Glad you stuck with us, but before we do, don't forget about Freedom Auto Tech, 828-355-4434. That's 828-355-4434. Open Monday through Saturday, 8 to 5, ready to service all your mechanical needs, and you can know as a customer that all the proceeds are going to support men in Christian recovery. So give them a call. If you have a car issue you need to fix, 828-355-4434. Ryan, so you have relapsed a few years out of Dunklin. Things have gotten bad again. So what happens next, my friend?
well, it got so bad that I physically got to the point where I could not work anymore. At this point I'm 38, 39 years old, and I didn't realize it at the time, but it had taken its toll on my body, and it just, the meth, it got to where all I was doing was smoking meth and running with some girl, and it just got really, really, really dark, and I was very, very angry at God. I cussed God, and if there's any, I know there's no way to threaten God, but if you could, I tried to threaten him, and I tried to call him out, and that's how angry and dark my world was. I was hearing voices. I've always been somebody who I thought could keep my mind intact, but the drugs and the darkness of the world I was living in was consuming me. If I had any way to explain it, I felt like Satan was swallowing me. And I was walking around with a hatchet in my pocket, or stuck in my pant leg, just
Paranoid like crazy.
Paranoid like crazy. Everybody was my enemy, just absolutely ready to die. There was nothing left on this planet for me. And
I know what you mean, brother. There's a
it's
darkness
very,
that
very,
you
very
even
hard.
can't communicate how
can't.
dark it is. I've been there when I was in Costa Riga. I wasn't meth, but it was cocaine and alcohol, and it still will wake me up at night sometimes. Think about, I cannot believe that I existed in that world for as long as I did.
And I can't believe and can't fathom God's grace and love to pull me out of that and to make me feel the way I feel today. Is just blows my mind. My mom had done what they call a Marchman Act in Tampa with the courts, and essentially the judge had control over my life and forced me to go to a rehab, and wanted me to go to one in Tampa, but I wanted to go somewhere. If I was going to go somewhere, which I didn't want to, it was going to be Christ-based because of what had happened in 2012 with Dunklin. And I came up here.
Reluctantly.
Very, very reluctantly.
I remember.
I was fighting on the way to the thrift store with my mom. I did not want to be here. I smoked meth in the bathroom at Walmart before I came here. Threw the pipe away 10 minutes before I got here. It was just, and looking back, I don't know how God does what he does, but he brought me here somehow, some way. He kept my mind just calm enough and just at bay long enough just to get me here. And when I got here, it wasn't like 2 days after I got here, I think, or the next day I broke. And just the emotional roller coaster of what I had been doing to myself and to my soul started to come alive again. And it's been an awesome experience just being here and, you know, with the guys and some of my brothers, and seeing how people change, and, you know, seeing guys have even come to me and said, you know, how they've helped me, and I don't know how.
How you have helped them.
Right. And I don't know how I mean, I'm just doing whatever it is I'm doing, you know, and God's picking up the pieces and putting it together.
So for those of you that don't know, Freedom Farm has 3 phases. So first 2 phases are, you know, they're 24-hour supervision by our staff. The guys are with us all the time. It's, you know, stabilization part of the program, then foundational part of the teaching program and whatnot. And then guys move to a 3rd phase where they're able to go get a job in the community and whatnot. So what we do have here sometimes is, well, not sometimes, but this is how the place actually is run. But when guys get to the 3rd phase, some guys take on what we have are called internships. So Ryan took on an internship with us. So instead of moving into the phase 3, he has that status where he has the freedoms of the guys at phase 3, but he's actually helping us operate Freedom Farm he lives at phase 1. And so the guy's coming in, and he's the perfect guy for it, because he had a hard time when he first got here. And you actually had a little bit of hard time coming through here. We had a moment.
Oh yes, we did.
We had a big moment one day.
It was a good moment though.
Yeah, you were. I saw in the face the anger, and I saw the something. I don't even know what it is that set you off that day, but something bad.
Well, it wasn't. It's not anything that sets me off. It's not anything I can put my finger on. It's the lies I've told myself all these years. You know and whatever it was, you know, you were wise enough and patient enough to just, you know, let me work through it. You know, and
I had gotten word one morning. He was at phase 2. Ryan was at phase 2. I got word one morning that you were basically about to go. Yeah. You were on the fence about to jump.
Oh, yeah.
And you were going to leave.
I was already out of here mentally.
You were out of here mentally. So I've been in that situation, I don't know how many times. And you know what? I already know that you can't. It's almost impossible to talk people off that ledge. So I met with you in the parking lot, and I just was like, all I said was like, "Are you all right?" And you were like, "No," or something. I don't know. You could just see it. And I was like, all I said was like, "Well, look, man, why don't we talk in a little bit? Why don't you just, you know, I just like, hey, why don't you take some time and we'll talk in a little bit." And I had prayed for you when I left because I didn't know what was going to happen, but you came off the ledge.
I did.
So.
And I don't know how that happened either.
I do. You know.
I know how it happened, but I can't put it into words.
Yeah.
You know, I stayed through the hard. I sat still through the hard times, I guess, is all I did, and didn't go anywhere. You know, I just sat through the battle and let God do the work, and it slowly, you know, went away.
So we got about 4 minutes, my friend. Okay, so what do you tell us? Some hopes for the future. Tell us some encouragement for today. He really is, folks. He really is helping men in Christ Center Recovery in a great way by just being a good listening ear, a friend to the guys out there, and for the staff, making sure nobody is doing anything crazy. You know, phase 1 guys, you just never know.
Oh, you never know.
I had a guy ask me yesterday. He wants to come on next Tuesday. He's like, "Hey, can I bring a bottle of lighter fluid and keep it in my room?" I said, "No." I said, "We'll hold it for you, but I don't want the lighter fluid in your room, okay?"
Right.
So yeah, be prepared. There's a guy coming in next Tuesday.
Lordy.
He has a Zippo and he has a bottle of lighter fluid for it. So you're gonna have to lock that one up, all right?
Right.
The next thing you know, the guys are starting fires and getting wire hangers and branding each other or something, you know?
Yeah, my group was crazy too.
Yeah.
But the one thing I tell the guys is you know, love the Lord and love others and love them the way that God loves them. You know, when I'm able to look past people's imperfections and truly love them for the good in them, everything else falls into place.
That's why Jesus was so amazing. The things that he said, when he's talking about to the Pharisees, guys, about how they felt they felt for themselves that they were so righteous and good because they followed the law, and he pointed out how they actually were failing miserably, and he just gives them those two things, love the Lord the God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. And if you actually sit and think about those two things on a daily basis, and say, do I do that like the standard requires? You never will think highly of yourself.
Right.
All it does is humble you.
That's it.
Because I rarely get through a day where I think about loving God with all my heart, soul, and strength and mind all day long. And buddy, I'm not very good at loving my neighbor like I ought to, but a little bit better every day.
That's right.
A little bit of progress here and there.
One day at a time.
Yeah. So 4.5 months you've been with us, my friend.
Mm-hmm.
Don't forget about the commitment part. I will remind you if you ever get overconfident again, because overconfidence and the guys that come through programs like this is a common thing. Hey, I can go out and, impatience, overconfidence, impatience. Like, I have to go and do this because of, X, Y, Z. They make up some kind of reason why they have to break their commitment because of this. And I tell you, it never works out. You know what? Interesting statistics I've been sharing with people. I went through 274 records of Freedom Farm recently. Guys that finished to 12 months, which is very low, only about 11% of guys finish all 12 months. But 86% of them, I can tell you to this day, I know what's going on in their lives.
Wow.
And their lives look completely different than the first day they came to Freedom Farm.
That's awesome.
86%. Now, I'm not saying that they've been clean and sober, but you know what? They're not living on the streets. They're not. They have like real life problems now.
Right. Right.
And that's a pretty high number, over 274 records as far as success goes. Ryan, thank you so much, my friend. It was great having you on the show. Folks, thanks for being with us every Thursday here, 10:30. Come back next week. We'll have a show again. So we'll see you next week. That's it, buddy.
Great show, guys. Great show. Yeah, and like I said, you're right. I mean, it's like you have to admit your own problem, and